Memories of John by Michael and Eileen. John and I were born at the Firs Maternity Hospital in Sherwood, Nottingham, England on the 15th of October 1945. John was the firstborn. He came out into the world at 3:30 p.m, followed by me a quarter of an hour later, and so began our lives together. Over the next 10 years, we were pretty much inseparable. We sat together at school, and I often copied John's work, as he was much smarter than me. I remember when we were about 6 or 7, our teacher, Mr. Braithwaite, promised to give a half-crown to the first child that learnt all his times tables. A rather rash promise with John in the class. Then a half-crown was a lot of money, enough to buy a bag of vegetables. John learned his tables in record time. He was highly motivated. Mr. Braithwaite was duly impressed, but he had forgotten that he had promised a half-crown prize, and John had to remind him. He was a kind teacher and kept his word. I remember Mr. Braithwaite putting his hand in his pocket and coming out with a bunch of change, which he stared at ruthfully for a second or two, before picking out a half-crown piece and giving it to John. When we reached 10, we both sat the 11+ examination. John passed and went on to grammar school. I didn't and went on to the secondary school. For the first time we were separated and developed friends and a social life separate from each other. After school, I went off to initially pursue a seafaring career, and John went to university, and our paths did not cross again for a few years, although we remained in regular touch through our mother. After leaving university, John left to live in the US and was conscripted into the US Army. However, the bond we had developed as children stayed with us throughout our lives. After Eileen and I were married, John was a frequent visitor, and we visited the States numerous times, attending graduations and weddings, etc. John developed a close relationship with our son David, as he did with all his nephews and nieces. He was much loved by all of us. He was a real character, intelligent, supportive, extremely inquisitive, and totally without vanity or airs and graces. He loved his family and his extended family. Although we lived most of our lives on different continents, the emotional bond was enduring, and life will not be the same now that he is no longer with us. He was somewhat of a linchpin and kept us up to date with what was going on in the family in general. He never forgot his roots. He accepted plain talking and never took offence if I pulled him up on anything. He wasn't perfect. He could be bad-tempered and somewhat frustrating, but who is perfect? What he was above everything else was a true, kind human being, and he would not deliberately hurt anyone.
Although separated by miles, he was an intrinsic member and part of our lives, and we'll miss him so much. As his passing was sudden and unexpected, we didn't get the chance to say goodbye. But until we meet again, John, we'll always love you. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Good night.
And God bless.
God bless.
Bye, John.
Bye. Okay.
Hi, Barbara. Our thoughts and prayers are with you as our families gather around to support you and your family today. It's so hard to accept that John is no longer with us, but he left his mark on us all with his unique personality, and there were times when he put his foot in it. But that was John, my big brother. Our lives were enriched having you and your family as part of the Chaplin clan. These bonds will always be with us. Our condolences to your immediate family and to all present today. We love you. May God be with you always.
Hello everybody. We wish we could be there with you today to celebrate the life of Uncle John and to remember him. I know he would have been very happy to see everybody together because family was so important to him. It was everything to him. And we've certainly missed the weekly calls he'd make to us on Saturday afternoons after the football matches here in England had finished. He'd usually have some strong views to share on Nottingham Forest, the football team he followed all his life. He'd be delighted to have seen Forest win last week and to stay in the Premier League. And I'm so pleased that he got the opportunity to see them back in the Premier League after a couple of decades of struggle away when they were promoted last year. But the calls wouldn't just be about the football. He'd fill us in on all the Chaplin family gossip in the US. We were very well informed when it came to that, and as I've said, family was everything to him. He didn't just help bind the American and the British parts of the family together, but he was a link to the old as well, to the relatives in Nottingham that we'd otherwise never have heard about. He made his efforts to keep in touch with them when he came over on his many visits, and he had such a keen interest not just in the old parts of the family and the history of the family and where we all came from, but in the new as well. And he was so proud of his children, his grandchildren, his nephews and nieces, and his great nephews and nieces, and everyone we ever would introduce him to. Everybody would remember him. He made a real impact on people he met, even if it was just a brief meeting. He was unfiltered, he was frank, he was funny, he was generous, clever, he was unique, and he was pretty much totally uninhibited. A day spent with Uncle John was always a day which you could guarantee would have moments of great entertainment, often involving conversations he'd strike up with total strangers. He was interested in people and he was interested in the world. Things aren't the same without him. We greatly miss him. We wish you the best today in remembering him. And no doubt it will be a very sad day, but we hope you'll find some moments to reflect on the kindness and the joy he brought to the world, and some of the funny things he said and did. And as is often the case with these things, the sadness experienced when someone like John leaves us is in proportion with and matched by the joy they brought when they were with us. So that is the trade-off with these things. All the best. Keep in touch.
I want to say a few words about John. So many wonderful memories we made with him. I think of John as being like this kind, loving, caring person that you could rely on. He was always there, always thought about others, and he always had a funny side to him. We had a few laughs, and some of the things that he would talk about were really quite funny. But he was always there with our family, wherever we were. We moved around a bit in the States, but when he was working, he would often call and say, "I'll come and visit you." And that was always special. He always wanted to be there. And when he left in the morning, he'd ask me to type out a receipt for a night's stay at the guest house. And he wanted to claim that on his expenses because he was always like, John was someone that was always saving money. I think he really cared about his family. He wanted to make sure they were taken care of. We used to encourage him to spend money, but he never wanted to on himself. He just wanted to treat others. But that was part of who John was. And he was just always there for all the celebrations that the children had when they were younger and when they were older. You could always rely on what a wonderful uncle he was. And he was a wonderful brother-in-law, and I know he was a wonderful brother to Bob too. And he came to visit us on a vacation in New Smyrna Beach. In fact, we were there recently and we were going over some of the stories about him, and good ones, some funny ones. And I remember him going to a fish and chip restaurant with us, and he would compliment the staff on what a wonderful fish and chips he had. It was the best one he'd ever had, and that would make all the staff smile and probably made their day. And we had a good trip with him, and always enjoyed his company. And as I say, he always wanted to be there wherever we were, and whenever he could be there, he would be there. I always also remember last time I probably spoke to him was back near Barbara's birthday, and he came on the phone. He said, and I said, "Oh, John, how are you?" And he said, "Oh, here's Barbara." And I never had a chance to really ask how he was doing, but he was just caring about, Barbara talking to us, and just always thinking about others. And that was part of who he was. But anyway, he will be dearly missed by us all. Of course he will. And although this is a sad occasion, we can also reflect on some of the things that he did, the memories he made, and the person he was. I don't think we'll ever forget him. And so I'm glad I could say a few words. And John, I will never forget you. I love you. Bye.
Hello everybody, just want to say a few words about my big brother John, who was taken from us a few weeks ago on April the 1st. Almost felt like a bad joke when we actually found out on posting on Facebook, but unfortunately it wasn't a joke. John was my big brother, someone I was in awe of many times. He was also someone I could be a little bit nervous about when I was younger, because he did have a temper even as a young man. But he had a lot of pressure on him. He was more or less the man of the family at a very young age. We were raised by a single mom, and he had to take a lot of responsibility for helping my mom with the financial side and paperwork. But he had a brilliant mind. He did very well at a grammar school, Mandela, and ended up going to University of Manchester, where he mastered in physics. He was heavily recruited and looked at going into the Air Force and the Navy, and eventually ended up taking an offer from General Electric, which meant he would move at the age of 22 to the USA. In fact, I was there when we put him on a plane in Manchester, England, with our mom, and she was broken-hearted that he was leaving. I was sad he was leaving, but I was also in admiration of his being prepared to go to a separate continent and start a new life. There were a lot of sides of John we didn't know about. I mean, I have a photograph of him wearing a shirt saying John, the man, the myth, the legend. I think he worked hard. He was known as an outstanding performer work-wise. He wasn't always subtle and good at working politics in corporations, and I think he had a lot of battles with management because he was a straight shooter. He would see the way things were, and that's what he would say. And in large corporations like GE, that didn't always get you where you want to be. Eventually, he ended up with Siemens, 30-year career, and he was really a troubleshooter, high-level engineer. He traveled the world. He went everywhere. He went to Russia, he went to Africa, he went to the Caribbean, he went to practically every state in the USA and Canada provinces. And he became the go-to guy for jobs that other people struggled with. And he was normally very successful. He worked in prisons, he worked in hospitals, he worked in large production plants where when the power went out, it could cost millions of dollars an hour. And there was always stress and pressure to fix things quickly. And most of the time, he came through. I know sometimes the the situation was too bad, couldn't be salvaged, and there was a lot of pressure put on him and his team. But John never really complained. He would complain about politics and sometimes management, but he was a doer and he stuck to his task. And we followed him to the States a few years later with my job. We lived in Jersey, he lived in Kansas, but he made an effort to see us enjoy our growing family wherever we were, whether it was Jersey or South Carolina or Michigan. He would always take advantage of his foreign travel to try and see his family in England too. And he was always very grateful for the hospitality that we took care of him when we got together. I think John kept a lot of his personal feelings to himself, and I know he enjoyed all his nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews, and when he called he'd go through the whole family, and sometimes I had to kind of hurry him up because he'd go, how's Alison, how's Mark, how's the children, how's Claudia, how's Graham? And with 12 grandchildren, it got a bit long sometimes. We shared a tremendous enthusiasm for our home football team, soccer team, Nottingham Forest, and we followed the disappointments and the lows and highs, and would always share them by text and by phone at the weekend. I'm so glad he got to see Nottingham Forest promoted, and I wish he got to see the game this weekend where they managed to stay in the Premier League. And it would have been nice to have gone back to England and watched them with him, but some things don't work out. It's sad he's gone, but when I look at his life, he had a 76, 77 years and a very full life, full of many interesting characters, and there's a lot of people all over the world that would have fond memories of him. And I hope we can take advantage of this sad event and maybe come together every couple of years to celebrate his life. Wish you all the best, and hope we can all get together this weekend and enjoy a celebration of John's life. Thank you.
Uncle John, you were the relative that we saw the most growing up, and you were like a second dad to me. And I loved when you took me out for our breakfasts, which you would do, you know, every time you came to visit, and that meant so much to me. And sometimes you even helped me clean my car. And I always knew that you were like just a phone call or a text away, and you would even, check on me if you hadn't heard from me. And I always thought you were going to be there, and I never thought that you wouldn't be there anymore. And I just I really hope that you're in a better place now. And I'm gonna miss you, and I'm always gonna remember you and what you did for me. And I wish I had a chance to tell you how grateful I am. Thankful and grateful. I wish I had a chance to say thank you. I wish I could have had a last visit with you. I'm grateful that I got to have a last phone call with you in March. I would have loved to have seen you again. But I remember fondly all the times that you visited us, while I was growing up. And you really were the relative we saw the most, because you were the one that was, in the States also. And you went out of your way to see us whenever you were working, nearby throughout the years. And there's so many good memories of you. Rest in peace. I love you. I miss you. Okay.
Uncle John, you are very missed already. I have so many good memories, both as a kid and also as an adult, with you coming to town. I always look forward to you coming to see us when I was younger, even when I was older too. But I always, as a kid, I remember thinking, Uncle John's coming to town. That means he's gonna take us out. He's gonna spoil us a little bit, get us out the house. I think we had a lot of ice cream. And I always just enjoyed spending time with you and talking to you and hearing what you had to say. It was always enjoyable. It was always fun. It was always great to see you. And then even as I get older, it was just as much fun just talking one-on-one with you, hearing some of your stories, and always look forward to you coming into town and seeing us and talking to Aaron. And remember you coming out to our condo a couple times. Yeah, I was always impressed with your skills with fixing things, and I think you helped us with our garbage disposal. I think you helped us with our dishwasher, and possibly our washing machine. And it was always just a joy for you to come to town and talk one-on-one with you. And I think everyone who ran into you or was any get together, whether it was weddings, graduation parties, which you always were there, I bet they can still remember meeting you today, to this point. I mean, you definitely made a lasting impression on them. You're going to be missed, and I think I've inherited some similar talking skills than you when it comes to just talking to people and just getting stories out of people and just enjoying what they have to say about their life. So, but yeah, it was a sad day hearing the news a couple months ago. So, but I hope you're resting in peace up there, and I'm sure at some point when we meet again, I'm sure you'll probably be helping someone out, fixing something, helping something, talking to people. You'll be greatly missed, and I look forward to that day where I can see you again. So rest in peace, Uncle John. I love you lots. But thanks for everything that you've done for us over the years. Take care. Bye.
Uncle John, I wish you could be here. Hopefully you're watching above as we share some nice words about the impact that you had to all of your family members. I know from my own experience, I felt you at every stage of my life, whether it be a youth, a teenager, a college student, a young working professional, a family man. Every step in my life, you were there, rooting me on, recognizing the things I was doing. You made me feel important. You made me feel special. You had that same profound effect on every family member that crossed your life. You were the connector. We came over here, as everyone knows, and didn't have any extended family with the exception of your family in Kansas City, and you made us feel like you're right next door to us. You boastfully bragged about how much you loved your nieces and nephews, and we felt that. We felt that. And I hope that you felt our love to you and our appreciation for you and how we all want to be who you were as a family member to not just our immediate family, but to our extended family. I mean, we miss you so much. You always just felt like you were a phone call away. I love you, John. I hope you're in a peaceful area. We miss you dearly. Thank you for being a part of our life.
Uncle John, it's not even been quite 2 months since you suddenly passed away, and we just really miss you and feel like a big piece of our family is missing. But we're grateful that the family could come together today to celebrate your life and to reflect and think about the good times we had with you and the funny times and just the life lessons, things that you taught us that maybe you weren't even aware that you were teaching us. But You always made such a point. I think the main thing is to be present, and we're kind of glue of the family and set the tone that distance doesn't matter. Like make the effort, stay in touch. A simple little message to say you're thinking of us, or I'm sorry to hear about Jerry's dental procedure, or you'd fill me in on David's family situation. And I just have so many fond memories of you visiting us when we were younger, and also up until recently you would come to any of the major milestones that you could make it to, and that was really special. Graduations, christenings, birthdays, you name it, you were there if you could, if your health allowed it. And we were really looking forward to your next visit that we had just talked about a week before you passed away. You were excited. You were saying, oh, you guys were doing a little better, and Aunt Barbara's feeling better, and you were looking for flights, and we were laughing because you were saying you wanted to find a good price, and I told you not to worry about it, just book that flight. And I'm just glad that we were able to share that time on FaceTime, and you saw Jared too and some of the kids, and we caught up. That last conversation was really special, and been looking back on our previous messages and back and forth exchanges with photos, and thank you for always looking out for us, and for always being there and making a point and letting us know that you cared about us and you loved us and you saw the good in everyone. That was like such a cool thing. Like you were so proud of your family. You would always tell me how awesome Lisa was doing and what she was up to, and tell me about Chris and what they were up to, what new adventures had going on, and how Aunt Barbara was doing. And it was just very apparent how special family meant, how special they were to you. And I think one of the coolest things, even though you're gone, it's so neat to see how genetics play out. Like so often we'll see our kids doing something, whether it's Riley, the way he's walking or carrying himself, or Reese and Gio, their little chatty ways, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's Uncle John. And we just always have a good chuckle about that. And that's, I'm really glad that those little things will continue, and they'll always remind me of you. And we'll make sure that we stay in touch with all the family, and hopefully come up to see Aunt Barbara and Lisa again soon, and see Christopher passing through. And thank you for everything you did for all of us, and we miss you so much, and we love you so much.
John, thank you for it's obvious to me that you're such an important part of Julie's life, and Mark and Paul and Allison, and you were just a great uncle. And you know, it's very, you know, telling about your personality that you would always make an effort, and you know, you could be 14-hour drive away or whatever, but you would still show up at the important moments in everybody's lives. I think it's a real special trait, you know, to see somebody who puts themselves last, always putting everybody first. Every phone call you ask about how everybody's doing. Even my family, you talk to me and you ask the first thing about my mom, my dad, even though we only met them a couple times. And it's just really special. And obviously we lost a very important person, but you certainly made a mark, and we'll miss you forever. Bye.
Uncle John, thank you for all the times you came and visited our family. It meant a lot, and we miss you.
3.
We love you, Uncle John. You're so cheerful, talkative, and special. And I love your suspenders.
Yep.
We love you, Uncle John. What now? We love you, Uncle John.
3.
We love you, Uncle John. We miss you.
Say it.
Uncle John, I love you back.
Can you do it one more time? 1, 2, 3.
We